Most people spend their entire lives chasing a feeling, and they call it passion. But passion without purpose is just expensive entertainment. And following your feelings without understanding the principles that govern success is the surest way to wake up at 50 wondering where your life went. Good evening. Tonight, I want to talk to you about something that may go against everything you've been told. Something that might even make you uncomfortable. But if you'll stay with me, I believe what I'm about to share could change the entire direction of your life. We live in a world that tells us to follow our passion. It's written on coffee mugs, shouted from stages, and plastered across social media. And it sounds wonderful, doesn't it? Romantic, inspiring. But here's the dangerous truth most people discover too late. Passion is a terrible compass. Let me explain. Passion is a feeling, and feelings by their very nature are unreliable. They change with the weather, with your mood, with how much sleep you got last night. If you base your life's direction on passion alone, you'll find yourself wandering in circles, starting and stopping, chasing one exciting idea after another, never building anything of lasting value. Now, don't misunderstand me. I'm not saying passion is worthless. I'm saying it's not enough. In fact, it's not even the starting point. The first dangerously honest principle is this: start with value, not passion. You see, the world doesn't pay you for what you love. It pays you for what you provide. It pays you for the problems you solve, the needs you meet, the value you create in the lives of others. And here's what's fascinating: when you become excellent at creating value, when you develop a skill so refined that people seek you out, passion often follows. Think about it. A young person says, "I'm passionate about art," and spends years waiting for inspiration, waiting to feel motivated. Meanwhile, another person says, "I will master design. I will learn what the market needs. I will become so skilled that my work speaks for itself." Which one do you think will still be working in their field 10 years from now? Passion without skill is just a hobby. Skill without passion can still build an extraordinary life. The second principle, discipline, is your true competitive advantage. The world is full of passionate people. It's full of dreamers, schemers, and talkers. But it's desperately short on people who show up every single day and do the work, especially when they don't feel like it. You want to know the real secret of success? It's this: do the thing when you least want to do it. That's discipline. That's mastery. That's the quiet edge that separates the successful from the struggling. Most people operate on motivation. They wait to feel inspired. They wait for the mood to strike. And so they live at the mercy of their emotions, like a sailboat without a rudder, blown about by every passing wind. But the person who succeeds, the person who builds something real, has learned to act independent of their feelings. They've built systems, routines, habits. They've made a decision once, and then they honor that decision every day, regardless of how they feel. Let me tell you something: motivation is a visitor. It comes and goes. But discipline is a resident. It moves in, it stays, and it transforms everything. The third principle, mastery, requires boredom. This is the one nobody wants to hear. We live in an age of endless novelty, constant stimulation, and instant gratification. But excellence, real excellence, is built in the monotonous middle, in the repetition you'd rather avoid. The concert pianist didn't become great by playing only when inspired. They became great by playing scales over and over and over again. The writer didn't succeed by waiting for the muse. They succeeded by writing every day, even when the words felt lifeless. You see, there's a phase in every worthwhile pursuit that I call the boring competence stage. You're no longer a beginner, so it's not exciting. But you're not yet a master, so it's not rewarding. You're just doing the work, day after day. And most people quit right here. They mistake boredom for a lack of passion, and they move on to something new. But the few who push through, who embrace the boredom, who trust the process, they emerge on the other side as masters. And suddenly, everyone calls them talented. But you and I know the truth: they were simply willing to be bored longer than everyone else. The fourth principle. Purpose is discovered through action, not introspection. Too many people are sitting around trying to find themselves. They're journaling, meditating, soul-searching, all valuable activities, but they're waiting for some cosmic revelation to show them their purpose. Let me save you some time. You will not think your way into purpose. You will act your way into it. Purpose is revealed through engagement with the world. It's discovered when you try things, when you contribute, when you solve problems, when you see the impact of your work on others. You don't find your calling by looking inward. You find it by looking outward, and then stepping forward. Start where you are. Use what you have. Do what you can. And I promise you clarity will come. Not in a flash of insight, but gradually as you move forward, as you pay attention, as you notice what energizes you and what the world needs. Your purpose isn't hidden. It's simply waiting for you to engage with life fully enough to discover it. The fifth principle of success is built in the unsexy fundamentals. Everyone wants the shortcut, the hack, the secret. But here's what I've learned in all my years. There are no shortcuts to any place worth going. Success is built on fundamentals. Show up on time. Do what you say you'll do. Deliver more than expected. Be reliable. Be consistent. Be excellent in the small things. These aren't exciting principles. You won't see them trending online. But they're the bedrock of every lasting achievement. The person who masters the fundamentals, who shows up day after day and executes consistently, will outlast and outperform the talented person who relies on passion and inspiration. The sixth principle: your thoughts determine your life. Choose them carefully. We become what we think about most of the time. This is not philosophy. This is law. It's as reliable as gravity. If you fill your mind with complaints, excuses, and limitations, that's the life you'll build. If you fill it with possibility, gratitude, and determined action, you'll create something entirely different. You are not a victim of your circumstances. You are a product of your thoughts and decisions. And that, my friend, is the most empowering truth you'll ever encounter, because it means you have control. You can change, you can grow, you can become. But it starts with guarding your mind as carefully as you'd guard your home. What are you letting in? What are you dwelling on? Because I assure you, you will move in the direction of your dominant thoughts. And here's the seventh and final principle, the one that ties them all together. You must measure success by who you're becoming, not what you're feeling. This is the antidote to the follow your passion trap. Because when you chase feelings, you'll always be disappointed. Feelings fluctuate. They're unreliable guides. But who you're becoming, that's solid. That's real. Are you more disciplined than you were last year? More skilled, more generous, more reliable? That's success. That's the true measure of a life well lived. Don't ask yourself, am I passionate about this? Ask yourself, am I growing? Am I contributing? Am I becoming the kind of person I respect? Because here's the truth that took me years to understand. We don't succeed because we're passionate. We become passionate because we succeed. When you develop competence, when you create value, when you see your work making a difference, that's when passion ignites. That's when you feel alive. Not before, after. So forget the myth. Stop waiting for passion to strike. Stop looking for the thing that will make you feel excited every single day. That thing doesn't exist. Instead, make a different choice. Choose a path where you can create value. Choose to develop mastery even when it's boring. Choose discipline over motivation. Choose growth over comfort. And I promise you, I stake my reputation on this, you will build a life of meaning, contribution, and yes, eventually deep satisfaction. Start with value, not passion. I want to tell you about a conversation I had some years ago with a young man, bright fellow, full of energy. He sat across from me in a coffee shop and said, "Mr. Nightingale, I'm 28 years old, and I still don't know what I'm passionate about. Everyone else seems to have it figured out. I feel like I'm running out of time." Now, I could see it in his eyes, that quiet desperation, that knowing sense that somehow life was passing him by while he stood still, waiting for some magical feeling to show him the way. He'd tried 5 different careers, started 3 businesses that never got off the ground, and with each attempt, he'd begun with excitement and ended with disappointment. "I just need to find my passion," he said. "Once I find it, everything will click." I took a slow sip of my coffee, let the silence settle between us for a moment. Then I asked him a question. "Tell me, what have you tried so far?" He rattled off the list. Photography, real estate, coaching, cryptocurrency trading. Each one started because something sparked his interest. Each one abandoned when the initial excitement wore off and the hard work began. Here's what I told him, and here's what I'm telling you now. You're asking the wrong question. You're starting from the wrong place entirely. The question isn't, what am I passionate about? The question is, what problem can I solve that people will actually pay me to solve? You see, somewhere along the way, We bought into a beautiful lie. We started believing that our careers should be an extension of our hobbies, that work should feel like play, that if we just found the right thing, we'd bounce out of bed every morning, thrilled to start our day. But let me share something with you, something I've observed over decades of studying successful people. The most fulfilled people I know didn't start with passion. They started with usefulness. They looked at the world and asked, "What's needed here? What can I learn to do that would serve others?" And then, this is crucial, they became exceptionally good at it. I'm reminded of a friend of mine, a man who runs a successful accounting firm. Now you might think, accounting, that doesn't sound passionate. And you'd be right. He didn't wake up as a child dreaming of tax returns and balance sheets. But he noticed that small business owners were drowning in financial confusion. They needed help. They needed clarity. They needed someone who understood the numbers. So he learned. He studied. He practiced. He became excellent at solving a specific problem for a specific group of people. And here's what happened over time as he saw his clients succeed, as he watched businesses grow because of his guidance, as he received letters thanking him for saving their dreams. He developed a deep love for his work, not because accounting itself was thrilling, but because impact is thrilling, mastery is thrilling, contribution is thrilling. The passion came after the value, not before. This is what I told that young man in the coffee shop. And this is what I'm telling you: stop waiting for passion to find you. Stop treating your career like a treasure hunt where X marks the spot of eternal excitement. Instead, do this. Look around you. What do people need? What problems exist in your community, your industry, your world that you could learn to solve? What skills could you develop that would make you valuable, genuinely valuable, to others? Choose one. Not because it sets your soul on fire, but because it's needed, because you can learn it, because it offers you a path to mastery. Then commit to becoming exceptional at it. Not just competent, not just adequate, exceptional. And I promise you this: as you develop skill, as you create value, as you see the difference your work makes in the lives of others, the passion you've been searching for will emerge. Quietly, naturally. Like a sunrise you don't force but simply witness. You don't need to find your passion, you need to build your competence. The rest will follow. That young man, he stopped searching and started building. Last I heard, he's running a successful business helping companies improve their customer service systems. Is it glamorous? Not particularly. Is he passionate about it? Absolutely, because he's goody at it, and because it matters. That's the first principle. Start with value, not passion. Discipline is your true competitive advantage. Let me tell you about a writer I once knew. Talented fellow. Had a gift with words that most people would envy. Publishers had expressed interest. Agents had made calls. Everyone who read his work said the same thing: you're going to be huge. But here's what happened. Or rather, here's what didn't happen. He would write in bursts. 3 weeks of brilliant productivity, churning out pages like a man possessed. Then nothing. A month would go by. 2 months. He'd tell himself he was recharging, waiting for the muse, waiting to feel inspired again, waiting for that magical state where the words flowed effortlessly. Meanwhile, there was another writer in his same circle, less talented if we're being honest. Her prose was workmanlike, nothing extraordinary, but every single morning at 5:30 a.m. she sat down at her desk and wrote for 2 hours. Didn't matter if she'd felt inspired, didn't matter if she'd slept poorly, didn't matter if the words felt lifeless and the ideas felt stale. She wrote. 10 years later, the talented writer was still talking about the novel he was working on, still waiting for inspiration, still producing nothing. The less talented writer, she had published 7 books, built a loyal readership, made a comfortable living from her work. Now let me ask you something, and really think about this. Which one would you rather be? You see, somewhere along the line, we got sold a dangerous myth. We started believing that success belongs to the talented, the inspired, the naturally gifted. We started thinking that the people who achieve great things are just born different, that they wake up feeling motivated while the rest of us struggle. But I've spent decades studying successful people, and I can tell you with absolute certainty that's not how it works. The difference between people who achieve their goals and people who don't has almost nothing to do with talent or motivation. It has everything to do with one simple thing. They've learned to act regardless of how they feel. Think about that for a moment. Really let it sink in. Most people are slaves to their emotions. They exercise when they feel energetic. They work on their business when they feel motivated. They're kind to their spouse when they feel loving. Their entire life is dictated by the weather patterns of their mood. But here's the truth that will set you free. Your feelings are not facts. Your emotions are not instructions. They're just information, and often unreliable information at that. The successful person has learned something that the unsuccessful person hasn't: how to do the thing anyway, how to show up anyway, how to take action anyway. I call this the principle of independent action. It means you've created a system, a routine, a structure that operates independently of your emotional state. You've made a decision once, maybe to write every morning, or to call 10 prospects every afternoon, or to spend an hour learning your craft every evening. And then you honor that decision every single day, regardless of whether you feel like it. Let me tell you what happens when you do this. First, the action itself often changes your emotional state. You don't feel like going to the gym, but you go anyway. 20 minutes in, you're glad you came. You don't feel like making that sales call, but you dial anyway. 2 calls later, you're in the rhythm. The motion creates the emotion, not the other way around. Second, you build trust with yourself. Every time you do what you said you'd do, even when you don't feel like it, you're making a deposit in your self-respect account. You're proving to yourself that you're reliable, that you're serious, that you're different from the crowd that only acts when conditions are perfect. And third, this is the big one, you create compound results. While everyone else is waiting to feel ready, you're accumulating progress. While they're having an internal debate about whether today is the right day to start, you're on day 247 of consistent action. The gap between you and them grows wider every single day. That writer I mentioned, the successful one, she told me something I'll never forget. She said, "Earl, most days my writing feels mediocre. But I've learned that mediocre work done consistently beats brilliant work done sporadically every single time." That's the secret. That's the competitive advantage hiding in plain sight. Discipline isn't about being hard on yourself. It's not about willpower or gritting your teeth. It's simpler than that. It's about making a decision once and then honoring it repeatedly. It's about building a system that works for you, not against you. So here's what I want you to understand. You don't need more motivation. You don't need to wait until you feel ready. You need a plan and the commitment to execute it, regardless of how you feel on any given day. Do that, just that, and you'll run circles around people with twice your talent and half your discipline. That's the second principle. Discipline is your true competitive advantage. Mastery requires boredom. I want to talk to you about something that happened to a friend of mine. Intelligent man, accomplished in many ways. But he had a pattern that kept repeating itself year after year, and he couldn't understand why. He'd start something new, a language course, a business venture, learning an instrument, and for the first few weeks he was on fire. Completely absorbed. He'd tell everyone about it. He'd stay up late reading about it. The excitement was genuine. Then, somewhere around week 6 or 7, something shifted. The novelty wore off. The initial thrill faded. And suddenly, the thing that had captivated him felt ordinary. Tedious, even. The daily practice became a chore. The lessons felt repetitive, and slowly, quietly, he'd drift away. Find something new. Start the cycle again. By the time he reached 45, he had a resume of half-learned skills and abandoned projects. And late one night, over coffee, he said something that stayed with me. "Earl, I think I'm just not built for mastery. I get bored too easily." I let those words hang in the air between us. Then I asked him a question I want you to consider as well. What if boredom isn't the problem? What if boredom is actually the price of admission? You see, we live in an age that has declared war on boredom. Everything is designed to be stimulating, exciting, instantly gratifying. Swipe, click, stream. We've been conditioned to believe that if something feels boring, we must be doing the wrong thing. That engagement should be constant. That mastery should feel thrilling every step of the way. But that's not how mastery works. That's never been how mastery works. Let me tell you about a concert pianist I once interviewed. World-class performer. The kind of person who can make an audience weep with a single piece. I asked her about her practice routine, expecting to hear about inspiration and passion and the joy of music. You know what she told me? She said, "Most days, I practice scales. The same scales I've been playing since I was 7 years old. For hours. And most days it's mind-numbingly dull. Think about that. Here's someone at the absolute pinnacle of her craft, and the bulk of her time is spent doing something she finds dull. Not because she's doing it wrong, but because she's doing it right. Here's what nobody tells you about the path to excellence. There's a phase, a long phase, that I call the valley of boring competence. You're past the beginner stage, so you're no longer getting those quick wins, those little dopamine hits of progress. But you're not yet a master, so you're not getting the rewards, the recognition, the satisfaction of truly exceptional work. You're in the middle. And the middle is boring. This is where most people quit. They mistake boredom for lack of purpose. They think, if I were really meant to do this, it wouldn't feel so monotonous. So they move on. They chase the next shiny thing, and the cycle begins again. But here's what the masters understand. What my friend eventually learned: boredom is not a signal to quit. It's a signal that you're exactly where you need to be. The repetition you find tedious. That's your brain building neural pathways. That's muscle memory forming. That's the unglamorous work of turning conscious effort into unconscious excellence. The basketball player shooting free throws for the 10,000th time isn't doing it because it's exciting. The surgeon practicing sutures on synthetic tissue isn't thrilled by the repetition. The comedian telling the same joke to different audiences, tweaking it slightly each time, they're not doing it for fun. They're doing it because excellence lives on the other side of boredom. Because mastery is built in the monotonous middle, in the repetition that everyone else avoids. And here's the beautiful part, the part that changes everything once you understand it. When you push through the boredom, when you keep showing up during the tedious phase, something remarkable happens. You emerge on the other side as someone fundamentally different. Someone capable, someone skilled. Someone who can do things that look like magic to people who quit. And suddenly, everyone calls you talented. They say you're gifted. They assume it came naturally to you. But you and I will know the truth. You were simply willing to be bored longer than everyone else. That friend of mine, he finally picked one thing, woodworking, and made a pact with himself. He'd stay with it through the boredom. He'd embrace the repetitive cuts, the same joints over and over, the tedious sanding. No quitting when it stopped feeling exciting. 3 years later, he's creating furniture that people commission and treasure. And he told me something profound. The boredom didn't go away, Earl. I just stopped seeing it as the enemy. I started seeing it as the path. That's the third principle. Mastery requires boredom. The question is, are you willing to pay that price? Most people aren't. And that's precisely why there's so much room at the top. Purpose is discovered through action, not introspection. I want to tell you about a woman I met several years ago. She was 32 years old, sitting in a bookstore cafe, surrounded by journals, self-help books, and what looked like a small library on finding your life's purpose. She looked exhausted. Not physically tired, but weary in a deeper way. The kind of tired that comes from searching for something you can't seem to find. I've been trying to figure out my purpose for 3 years, she told me. I've done the exercises, the meditation, the vision boards. I've asked myself 1,000 different ways, what am I meant to do? What's my calling? What's my purpose? But nothing comes. It's like everyone else got a map and I'm just lost. She had quit a stable job to find herself, spent her savings on courses and retreats, read every book on purpose and meaning she could find, and with each passing month the pressure grew heavier. The clock was ticking, life was moving forward, and she was still sitting still, waiting for the answer to arrive. I watched her for a moment, saw the desperation in her eyes, the fear that maybe, just maybe, she was the one person in the world without a purpose to find. Then I asked her something that seemed to catch her off guard. What have you actually done in these 3 years? She looked confused. What do you mean? I mean, I said, while you've been searching inward, what have you been doing outward? What have you created? What problems have you solved? Who have you helped? The silence that followed told me everything I needed to know. You see, here's the trap that catches so many intelligent, well-meaning people. They've been told that purpose is something you discover within yourself. That if you just think hard enough, journal long enough, meditate deeply enough, the answer will reveal itself like some cosmic memo delivered to your consciousness. But that's not how it works. That's not how it has ever worked. Purpose is not hiding inside you, waiting to be found. Purpose is revealed through your engagement with the world. through your actions, through your contribution, through the intersection of what you do and how it affects others. Let me tell you about a man named George. Unremarkable name, unremarkable beginnings. He certainly didn't start out thinking he'd found his purpose. He was working at a hardware store, helping customers fix problems around their houses. Day after day, nothing glamorous. Nothing that would make his younger self proud. But something interesting started happening. Elderly customers would come back specifically to ask for his help. They'd tell him, "You're the only one who explains things in a way I can understand." Single mothers would seek him out because he'd show them how to do simple repairs themselves instead of selling them expensive solutions. One day, a customer said to him, "You should teach this. People need what you know." That conversation changed everything. Not because it revealed some hidden purpose that was always there, but because it showed him something that only became visible through doing, through showing up, through serving, through action. Today, George runs workshops teaching basic home maintenance to people who've never held a drill. He's written guides, created videos, and if you ask him about his purpose, he'll tell you. I didn't find it by looking inside myself. I found it by looking at what happened when I helped others. This is what I told that woman in the bookstore, and this is what I'm telling you now. Stop searching. Start doing. You don't need another journal prompt or another meditation session. You need to engage with the world. You need to take your skills, whatever they are right now, even if they seem ordinary, and put them to use. Help someone, solve a problem, create something, contribute somewhere, and then, this is crucial, pay attention. Notice what happens. Notice where you create impact. Notice what energizes you not because it's exciting, but because it matters. Notice where your abilities meet the world's needs. Purpose doesn't arrive in a flash of insight during a quiet moment of reflection. It emerges gradually, like a photograph developing. As you take action, observe the results, adjust, and take more action. The clarity you're seeking, the sense of direction you're craving, it won't come from thinking. It will come from moving. Think of it this way: you can't steer a parked car. You can't adjust the course of a ship that isn't sailing. You have to be in motion first. You have to be doing something, going somewhere, attempting something. Then, and only then, can you make the adjustments that lead you toward your purpose. That woman, I saw her about 18 months later. She'd stopped journaling about her purpose and started volunteering at a community center, teaching immigrants English. Through that, she noticed a gap. These families needed help navigating the systems of their new country. She started a small service helping them. It grew. And the last time we spoke, she said something I'll never forget. I stopped looking for my purpose and started living. And somewhere along the way, my purpose found me. That's the fourth principle. Purpose is discovered through action, not introspection. Stop waiting for the revelation. Start moving, start contributing, start doing. The path will reveal itself one step at a time. Success is built in the unsexy fundamentals. Let me tell you about two men I knew who started businesses in the same industry, in the same city, at almost the exact same time. The first man, let's call him Richard, was brilliant. Genuinely brilliant. He had innovative ideas, cutting-edge strategies, and a natural charisma that could light up a room. He spent his time networking at high-level events, crafting the perfect brand message, reading the latest business books, attending seminars on growth hacking and viral marketing. He was always chasing the next big breakthrough, the secret ingredient that would catapult his business to success. The second man, we'll call him Tom, was, frankly, ordinary. Nothing about him stood out. His ideas weren't revolutionary. His personality wasn't magnetic. But he did something that Richard found impossibly boring. He showed up at his office at 7 a.m. every single day. He returned every phone call within 2 hours. He did exactly what he promised when he promised. He kept meticulous records. He followed up with clients. He paid his bills on time. He was reliable. 5 years later, Richard's business had collapsed. He'd burned through investors, alienated partners, and left behind a trail of broken promises and missed deadlines. He couldn't understand it. He had all the right knowledge, all the innovative strategies, all the secrets. Tom's business. Thriving. Nothing spectacular, just steady, consistent growth. Loyal clients who referred others. A reputation that preceded him. A business built on something so simple it seemed almost laughable. He had mastered the fundamentals. Now, here's what bothers me, and maybe it bothers you too, because you've seen this pattern in your own life or in the lives of people around you. We've become obsessed with shortcuts, with hacks, with secrets and tricks and insider knowledge. We're drowning in content that promises to teach us the one thing that successful people know that we don't, the hidden strategy, the overlooked technique, the game-changing approach. And while we're busy searching for these secrets, we're ignoring the obvious. We're stepping over the fundamentals on our way to look for something more exciting. But let me tell you something I've learned after decades of studying successful people, interviewing them, observing them, analyzing what separates those who make it from those who don't. There are no secrets. There never were. Success is built on things so basic, so fundamental, so unglamorous that most people dismiss them as too simple to matter. But here's the paradox that will change your life if you truly understand it. The fundamentals are simple, but they're not easy. And the reason they're not easy is because they require something that's in desperately short supply: consistency. Let me break this down for you. What are these fundamentals I'm talking about? Show up on time every time, not most times, every time. Sounds simple, doesn't it? Yet look around, or count how many people treat punctuality as optional. But the person who's there when they said they'd be there, that person is already in the top 20%. Do what you say you'll do. Make a promise, keep it. Say you'll call Tuesday at 3, call Tuesday at 3. Say you'll deliver by Friday, deliver by Friday, or deliver by Thursday. Nothing, and I mean nothing, builds a reputation faster than being someone whose word means something. Deliver more than expected. Not occasionally, not when you feel generous. Consistently. The extra mile isn't crowded because most people never walk it, but the few who do. They stand out like a lighthouse in fog. Be responsive, return calls, answer emails. Acknowledge messages. The world is full of talented people who are terrible at communication. Be the exception. Be the person people can count on to respond. Take care of the small things. The details that nobody sees. The quality checks that nobody asked for. The follow-through that seems unnecessary. Because here's what happens: small things compound. The person who does excellent work when nobody's watching is building something that excellence eventually reveals. Now, I know what you might be thinking. Earl, this is basic stuff. Everyone knows this. And you're right, everyone does know this. But knowing and doing are separated by the widest gap in human behavior. The fundamentals aren't exciting. They won't trend on social media. There's no glamour in showing up on time or returning phone calls promptly. No one's going to write a viral article about the power of keeping your promises. But while everyone else is searching for the secret sauce, the magic bullet, the hidden strategy, you can be doing the boring, basic, fundamental things that actually build success. And I promise you this: 5 years from now, 10 years from now, you will have lapped people who seemed more talented, more connected, more destined for success than you. Because talent without fundamentals is just potential. Strategy without execution is just theory. Brilliance without reliability is just frustration for everyone around you. Tom, the man I told you about, I asked him once what his secret was. He laughed and said, "Earl, there is no secret. I just decided that if someone trusted me with their business, I'd treat that trust like it was made of gold. Show up, do the work, keep my word. That's it. That's it. And that's everything. That's the fifth principle. Success is built in the unsexy fundamentals. So stop looking for shortcuts. Stop waiting for the breakthrough. Master the basics. Be excellent at the things everyone else thinks are beneath them. That's where you'll find your competitive advantage. Right there in the boring, beautiful fundamentals. So here's what I want you to do. Not someday, not when you feel ready, but today. Identify one area where you can create value for others. One skill you can develop. One problem you can solve. It doesn't have to be grand. It just has to be real. And then make a commitment. Not based on how you feel. Not based on passion. But based on who you want to become. Commit to showing up every day for the next 90 days. Commit to the discipline, the boredom, the unsexy fundamentals. Commit to the work. And watch what happens. Watch how competence builds confidence. Watch how value creates opportunity. Watch how discipline transforms your entire life. The world is waiting for what you can offer, but only if you're willing to offer it. Only if you're willing to do the work that passion alone will never sustain. Your move. This is Earl Nightingale. Thank you for listening.